Well, yeah, so go ahead. Just to get started, not a lot coming up. I'm working on event-wise, setting up for this summer. I'll probably do it in July, maybe August. And so I'm open for anyone who has any opinions about that. But we're going to and I have to, of course, talk to the trust attorney. But I'm finally calling quite a few trust attorneys to either come to our office, or depending on how many people we end up getting, we'll reserve just like a conference area with tables and stuff. There's some golf courses that have that we can do it at, but essentially we'll have a trust attorney come in that will teach about the value of a trust, what it means, what are the ramifications if your property and your assets are not held in a trust. But what's really good is for a lot of you who work farms or you have past clients and you're looking for something to connect with people about, inviting them to this is going to be pretty awesome. Because, I mean, obviously, if anyone has ever done a probate transaction, it is a nightmare. It can be a nightmare because you have to wait for court approval. You have to deal with all the heirs. I submit one document, to the listing agent. She has to review it, or he, and then they have to submit it then to the executor of the trust. Once the executor of the trust reviews it, then they submit it and they review it with the rest of the heirs and get permission from them. I've had it where there's 14 people claiming ownership of a property, and the executor of the trust said, I'm not upset about it, but I know that my mom wanted it to go to their direct children, and all of a sudden all these family members that we haven't talked to in decades are coming out and claiming ownership. Luckily, this person said, like I care, or like I said, I don't really care that much. It's just, I wish they would have put their house in a trust. And so we're going to have that as our kind of summer seminar, just something of value to give people, but it also starts up that conversation, right? You can definitely talk with people about that. Yeah, so it's either coming in July, probably towards the end of July, or August. Once I find a good trust attorney, which David sent me one. If anyone has any others, please let me know. And so we'll get that set up. Other than that, tomorrow we have Nick Ellsworth with Fidelity National Title coming in. He's going to do a class on farming. Even if you use another title rep, escrow officer, doesn't matter. Perspective and knowledge is perspective and knowledge. And so he has taught a lot of people. He can point to some real estate agents that he's taught that have been extremely successful. And so he's gotten even additional insights from them on what they personally do. And with a lot of these people, I like to sit down to ask what they go over. And typically when people start talking about turnover rates and a few other keywords, I think that they just were taught something from their leadership at their title company or escrow company. And they're just kind of regurgitating the information. So I like when someone has a different perspective, and it's something more practical. So he has a pretty interesting perspective, and definitely a way for you to, like, I know some of you have been thinking about doing mailers. One of the things he has, it's a very cost-effective budget, but there's some cool tips and tricks he has on, how to just spend a few dollars a month and get some really good leads. Because as interest rates have gone up and up and up, surprisingly, there are still people selling. And so all the time I get people who say, why would I ever sell if I have this low interest rate? I'm like, well, there are people selling and there's reasons why. And so he's going to go over how to get those leads off of things like Title Toolbox that Fidelity has, Old Republic Title has. So even if you like your rep with Old Republic Title, they use the same tool. So he'll kind of go over that as well. Should be pretty useful and helpful. So that'll be tomorrow in the office. And then obviously, like always, Vanessa, David, and Mary were in yesterday in the office, and they were all brainstorming different ideas on what they do to generate business. That's what the office is for. If people wanted to come in on Fridays or Mondays, I think Mondays are a great day just to come in, either record some social media or talk with everyone and see, hey, what are you doing to generate business? What are you doing to generate business? And that way you can start off the rest of your work week for yourself and say, okay, what should I be doing this week? What sounds useful and good to me? So the office is definitely a great place for that. I scheduled my first poker night with my past clients um, here at the office, so anyone else is welcome to do it. It's a $10 buy-in for it's a Texas Hold'em tournament, $10 buy-in, and then they got to bring a $10 scratcher as well. So, and then it's bring your own booze. They can have some of our booze too, but bring your own booze. And honestly, pretty much every single client that I reached out to and asked if they'd want to do it, they said absolutely. And I've got little cheat sheets if people have never really played Texas Hold'em, so it's fun. But with that being said, one of them that has never referred business to me and I hang out with all the time said that her sister and brother-in-law are looking to buy land and build a house, use the one-time close new construction loan. So that's kind of cool. It was right after I sent her that message too about the poker night. So whatever you're doing to stay in touch with your past clients or people in your sphere, I mean, you can be passive about it and invite them to an event, or you can be a little more aggressive about it and say, hey, we're putting on an investor seminar. I don't know if you ever thought about investing in real estate, but I think this is really useful. And that way you're at least opening the door to that conversation, right? It's like what Adrian had told us when someone asks him, what do you do for work? He says, well, I help people build wealth with real estate, or however he words it. And I mean, it opens the door for so much conversation. I mean, if someone's never bought a house, they say, oh, that's awesome. I wish I could buy a house. Boom. That gives me a ton of things I can talk about. Right. So these are all ways to generate business. But like, when Mary and I go to UWM and we do that training, they have a billionaire get on the stage, and he has said repeatedly, essentially those of us who are brokers, there's brokers and there's retail direct lenders. So direct lenders, their company gives the loan. Brokers, we can shop around for the best deals. The problem with that is we do a little too much shopping, and then we don't memorize everyone's processes. And so it makes transactions a lot less smooth. And so if we stick with one and focus on that one lender, it can just be a lot easier and we get good deals. So with that being said, what this billionaire constantly talks about is during the refi boom in the last couple of years, the retail, so direct lenders, the ones who have the higher interest rates, close like 80% of the business. And brokers made up about 20%. And that has slowly started to change to about 25% of the market, but it's still interesting. And he constantly talks about, while times are slow now is when you need to get your systems and your processes set up. How often are you doing your events? When are you sitting down and planning your events with, your lender partner, with your spouse, by yourself? Do you have another agent you want to work with? Like, what is your plan, and what are you sitting down to refine and do? Are you learning Lofty and playing around with it? Like David got on and put him and his wife as contacts, and he said, who's Anna texting me? I'm like, oh, see, we're learning. Anna's the AI that texts if you put in a new lead and leave it at new, and if you say it came from whatever source. So it came from his website, right? But now's the time to learn your systems and processes. Now's the time. I don't know how many of you have ever written an offer before, or when was the last time you wrote an offer, but I would definitely do it right now. I would sit down, I'd pick a house. You can even text me and I'll give you a scenario and say, hey, your buyer's putting 3% down. Their lender said they can close in 21 days. The house is vacant. Write the offer, send it to me, and I'll review it and give you notes. At least you'll be better prepared than when you actually get a client who's ready to write an offer and you sit down for the first time to write it, because it's very overwhelming. And I don't have 3 hours or 2 hours to spend that time. I will always spend 30 to 45 minutes helping you put together the offer. But if you've never done it before, like never, ever pulled up zip forms, I'm telling you, it takes a couple hours to get used to it. So practice now. Like now's the time to really refine everything. And so I'm hearing this in all of our mastermind groups we're a part of. I'm hearing this from the billionaire owner of the Phoenix Suns and the owner of UWM, or not owner, but CEO of UWM. That now is the time to refine things. Now's the time to learn CapCut and how to make videos, or whatever you want to do. Now's the time to build relationships on LinkedIn. I went and I looked up, okay, what are the highest paying jobs in our area? Because who can afford to buy at this interest rate? tech jobs and hospital jobs was pretty much the top two, and then there were a couple others. So I just literally went on LinkedIn, typed in software engineer Sacramento, and I added like 200 people this morning, and I've had like 50 confirm and accept it. And so what am I going to do next? Well, I'm going to invite them all to an investor seminar, and get that going. So, but these are all ideas I love. Vanessa has worked expireds, and that's where she got her listing. And so there's a lot of things you can be doing. So come in here, brainstorm, or if anyone wants to put on Discord and say, hey, I'm planning on going into the office. Does anyone want to like spitball ideas on how to generate business? I'm sure you're going to find someone who's going to want to. So yeah. And then there's a lockbox. So don't forget that there's a CBS code. And so that was the last message that I posted on with the video on Discord. So that's how anyone can get in the office at any time. The weekends, the motion sensor is a little tricky, and I keep forgetting to ask them about it because it's a little more sensitive. But yeah. And then we also get reports from, it's called Cal Paces. So they give us discounts on continuing education and discounts on getting your real estate license. So if you know anyone, they can get a 30% off. It's actually not that cheap, but with First Tuesday, you can get 30% off. They send me a report of how many people are renewing their license, and we're down like 60%. There's a lot of people leaving the industry. You have Mary as a loan officer calling realtors to talk with them about how we can help them close more deals. And what would you say, like 25%, half of them said, I'm not in the industry anymore. 20%. Yeah. That's a lot of people leaving the industry, which should be good for all of you. More potential, but you got to do something. I think we're past the time when it was just a no-brainer to buy and a no-brainer to sell. So yeah, just have the conversations. There are lots of programs coming out. So for investors, there are all kinds of crazy, interesting loans. I'm working on putting out more information on our Purpose Home Loans website and a blog. And so if anyone wanted, social media content ideas, you can always look at our blog on purposehomeloans.com. They've got investor loans where you can just do an interest-only payment for a year. That way, if where interest rates are at, it doesn't financially make sense to buy an investment property because it's not cash flowing that much, but that there's upside potential, right? I can do an interest-only payment, which makes it so that I make more money and then refinance it in a year, right? There's debt service coverage ratio loans. There's all kinds of things. The cool one that just came out is a 0% down. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. If you want to mute your thing, it's gonna.
Oh yeah. Wait.
Well, I think your microphone's.
Yeah.
Okay, better. Now mute it. Are you guys getting the echo when I talk? Okay. So there is, in terms of things to promote for clients, there is a good 0% down program that came out. So it's 0% down, but it's actually up to $15,000 credit to a first-time home buyer. It also can be, let me double check my notes, but also not for first-time home buyers. There's just some like income requirements there, but there's a $15,000 incentive to get people in the door to purchase a house. I believe that credit can also be used if there's more payments needed. It could be used as just, minimum $15,000. The $15,000 doesn't need to be paid back yet. There's no interest on it. There's no payments due on it. The only time it's due is if they sell the home or refinance the home. If they refinance the home with the same people who provide this program, they'll just bump it back to a second lien. So it'll just sit there waiting until the next refi or the next time to sell. So it's kind of a good incentive and good thing to get promote for people who are having a hard time with down payment, because it's not just interest rates, it's down payment, general affordability. So it's just one more tool in the toolbox. And then one other thing I was going to say about the trusts that you said, that's actually something I saw. I don't remember who was talking about it, but that's another good way to stay in front of your clients as well and offer what's the word I'm looking?
Podcast.
Was that podcast?
She waits till a month after.
Yeah. So it's another way to stay in front of your clients and offer what's the damn word I'm looking for?
Just touch base.
Just a touch base with them really and get in front of me like, hey, so great, congratulations, you got this new house. Have you set up a trust for it? Do you have a contact? It's just one more strategy just to get in front of them. So that might be a good one to go to, that in-person seminar, right? Can they invite buyers to that or no? Or is it mostly just for realtors?
Anyone.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one other thing with the 0% down program, so it's 3%. So if you figure you can go up to a $500,000 purchase price with that as a first-time home buyer. Well, and we have access to another down payment assistance program. The problem is it's almost 1% or more higher in an interest rate, and it makes it really difficult for people to qualify. I mean, that's an extra several $100s, depending on the person, and there's so many factors they look at. It can be 1/4% higher to maybe 0.5%, and so I've seen it even less. So it's pretty equivalent in the interest rate with that credit, that $15,000 credit. And so you're showing a house, let's say, and someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to put money into this. Maybe I don't want it, but it's the only house available." Well, why don't they save their down payment? Because it's not gonna grow interest, and go ahead and go buy the house without, and keep their money in their pocket, put the money into the house, knowing that rates are going to drop and they added value to the house. They're more likely than when they go to refinance to be able to remove their mortgage insurance because, they upgraded it. So just another talking point with people, especially if you're trying to, you get a lead maybe, and you're trying to prove some value to them. Thank you. Add some value to them. Yeah. You just talk with them and say, yeah, just giving them different ideas, making yourself look like a professional. I think we're past this stage in our, in this time, especially with the NAR lawsuit, people talking about real estate commissions going away. You can't just open the door. Cannot be a door opener. You will lose these clients. You need to be someone who tries to find a way to add value while you're there in person. Because people are going to start being very critical of what their realtor provides. So yeah, and same thing with this. If we really got into a market where it got really competitive and people were saying, "Oh, we're not going to pay your agent's commission," this is just another tool in our toolbox. If that were to happen, where you can use that down payment assistance to help pay your commission, but that's a whole nother conversation. At least we know we have options in the future. So yeah, but that's pretty much it on my list to share. What's going to happen in the market? I don't know. We just came back from the UWM event, and there were some pretty seasoned loan officers who they think the Fed has been pretty quiet right now, and that they should have actually been increasing rates based on a lot of the reports they've been getting, and the fact that they have not chosen to. It's very likely, in my personal opinion, that they're going to say that they're going to cut rates at least once, like probably October, right before the election. It's a historic thing. I'm not trying to be political, but that's probably what they're going to do. If not, we're going to probably see rates drop next year. So just hold tight. People are still buying. People are still closing deals. Vivi's killing it. Yeah, and we're all here to help. Does anyone have any comments or anything they wanted to share?